Yeah. What is good, my people? We got a collab show. It is Running Back Philly and SwipaCam back at it once again.
What's going on, brother? Good to see you, man.
Give me 1 second. Been having headaches from the lights. Yeah, we're back. When's the last time we did this, man?
Last year, before the March showdown, when they last played in Philly, bro. This is the last time we did a show together.
Yeah, so always fun to chop it up with you. You know, I'm always happy to talk with hoop heads, man. So yeah, we'll just first of all, Joel Embiid is questionable. Now I see somebody in the chat that said both players are questionable, Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokić.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with Jokić? Does he have like a recent injury or something?
Yeah, so he sat out the last game versus the Milwaukee Bucks due to that hamstring injury on back-to-back. But what they did was they sat him the Bucks game. They had sat him the previous game versus the Pacers. And then the OKC game as well. So he played one game since the 18th of January, and that was the Pelicans game. But I think most of this has to do with the fact that I just want to do maintenance on it. But he should be good to go because, again, it's been several days. But I do know they've been trying to maximize getting all of his rest in. And Jamal Murray, same thing. Bruce Brown's questionable. Murray, KCP, and Michael Porter Jr., who just came back to the roster. He had some family stuff he was going through. But I think they should all be available. The only person that didn't practice yesterday was Bruce Brown. Everybody else practiced yesterday.
Yeah, Doc Rivers said that the Sixers didn't practice yesterday. They did like a walkthrough, and Joel Embiid didn't participate. Wait, or did he? Doc Rivers says he did not really practice yesterday, but the team had more of a walkthrough. It just says game time decision. But anyway, yeah, hopefully we get both of them, man. Hopefully we get the matchup that people want. Right. MVP number 1 and number 2 runners right now, I think, on most lists. Last year, obviously. Last 2 years, 1 and 2. So it's a good matchup, man. It's something that people want to see. I'm struggling with the NBA lately, I think, man. Has it always been like this? I feel like it's hard to get 2 top teams fully healthy against each other in the regular season.
Yeah, I think it's just because somebody brought this up the other day that could Richard Jefferson had that segment about why it's important for players to play, but somebody else brought up the fact that we've never seen this level of explosion from players in the course of NBA history. Like, think about the amount of ground that Embiid has to cover going side to side. He has to stand space in front of all these guards. You got to be able to guard the rim, come up to the perimeter, guard sideline to sideline. So I think it's the amount of games, and then on top of that, it's just the level of athleticism that they're seeing, that players are they're having to rest more. But then on top of that, the ring culture. Everything's about winning wings. So if you're not winning a ring, then the regular season stuff doesn't matter all that much. So I think it's all that stuff together, sports science plus the new level of competition. And I think players are just genuinely worn down. But you got to think, outside of Embiid, could Embiid didn't start playing basketball till in his late teens. A lot of these cats been playing since they were like 10 or 11 and playing all the time. So there could be some continuation in terms of just all the miles they've run. And then by the time they get in their late 20s, early 30s, they might just be close to being like, a little older in their bodies.
Yeah, it's true, man. That's true. The Sixers, James Harden's 33. I don't see as much load management for Harden though as I thought I would. What do you think about like what owners think about it? Because I think I saw on ESPN yesterday they're talking about a CBA and like, do you think it's bad for the game business wise, and like owners are gonna start trying to do some things with the CBA to try to, the NBA tries to force players to play like in season tournament coming soon, not this season, right?
No, not this season, not yet.
In season tournament. I don't know if that's gonna make anybody care really about a Tuesday night game in December or whatever. Yeah, and then they find teams for sitting guys out without injuries and things like that, but what do you think they can actually do to make 82 games matter? You know what I mean?
Bro, that's just a lot of games, bro. Like, I'm going to keep it real with you. I don't know if there's something that the NBA can do about it. They're 82 games right now, and then I think the back-to-backs are crazy. You probably saw me on the timeline the other day. Like, why do you have, Jokić playing the Pelicans on one night, traveling 1,100 miles, and they're going to play against Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks the next night? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Teams, the next time the Bucks play Denver, they got to play in Utah, then in Denver. And that's one of the worst back-to-back stretches in the NBA because of the altitude. So Giannis might not even play that next game. So, it's just a lot. I think that I don't know what they can do other than to shorten the season. But as of right now, there's just not a lot of players that are playing heavy minutes. And then, usually Jokić has missed 7 games this year. He missed 4 for injury and 3 for COVID. But he's played the most minutes in the NBA since 2018. So I think some of this is like now they're looking at him and saying, well, he could do it, but we don't really want to stress his body out like it has the last few seasons. By the time the playoffs come around, we just want him to be fully healthy. So, I don't know. I don't know what the NBA could do, honestly.
Yeah, that's my thing with Joel Embiid. That was my thing with Joel Embiid when before the season started. I was saying, listen, I'll take 50. I'll take 50 games from Embiid. I'll take 40 games from Embiid, man. If I just finally get a healthy Joel Embiid in the playoffs. And he was healthy last year, and then he got elbowed in the face by Pascal Siakam. So that it's things like that too, that it's not even really like he's worn down when the playoffs start. It's like he just keeps getting these like stupid freak injuries that take him out. And then, what was it, dislocated thumb or torn ligament in the thumb, stuff like that. So it's just been bad luck for Embiid, I think, man, more than him being worn down. But either way, yeah, the back-to-backs. I think if the NBA could find a way to get rid of the back-to-backs, man, because you're and ESPN's paying money for games, TNT's paying money for games, and when they get a Clippers versus Suns nationally televised game and it's a back-to-back and nobody plays, like, bro, are they even making money on those ratings? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, they got to figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, bro. Giannis had the knee injury this year. It's taken him out a little bit. Embiid had 12 missed games?
Yeah, 12.
Or something like that. Was it because of the foot, the plantar fasciitis?
In the beginning of the season, he played. He just wasn't playing well. He was hurt with the ankle for. Well, yeah, he was out for a while. We were playing without Harden, Maxey, and Embiid for like a month.
Mm-hmm. And then Maxey had a knee injury.
Maxey had the fractured foot.
That's right. That's what it was.
Harden had the strained foot tendon. I don't even remember what Embiid's was, man. I don't even remember at this point.
Yes. So I think it's just like in Kawhi and the Clippers, obviously, but I really think that's what it is. LeBron was hurt last year, and then AD got hurt this year. I don't even think players are doing it a lot, bro. I think there have just been some legitimate soft tissue injuries or like just ankle injuries or foot injuries, and teams are just being smart about their players. And like in the 76ers case, you are sitting at 31-16, and you're, basically second in the conference. But right now, your winning percentage is just a little bit better than the Milwaukee Bucks. So, I mean, even despite all that stuff, here y'all are. So yeah, man, I don't know. I think it's paying off for the players that are being smart about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, as far as the Sixers go, man, they started the season slow. I was jumping the gun the first 10 games. I couldn't believe that they started 0-3. They started 12-12, I think, the first 24 games. And I just, after all the hype in the offseason, I didn't like what they looked like. And but they slowly got it together. They're fully healthy now. They're getting the chemistry with Embiid, Harden, Maxey coming off the bench now. I still don't know how I feel about it, but I think the Sixers are coming into form, I guess, lately. So I'm excited for that. Let's just get this out the way because we always got to do this. So let's just get it out the way, man. Is Nikola Jokić the MVP of the NBA for the third season in a row?
By the way, bro, just got an update. Bruce Brown, Nikola Jokić, Jamal Murray, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Michael Porter Jr. are all available today. So you will be getting the full roster.
Let's go.
Yeah, the full roster today. I don't know. It doesn't say anything about Bruce Brown yet, but I think he might be available, but we'll see. We'll find out here in a minute. But to your question, bro, you asked me if Jokic's the MVP right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think where I'm at currently with it is I don't see – the question has turned into who is going to be able to take the MVP away from Jokić at this point, and I think that's what the conversation is because he's averaging 25.1, 11, and 9.9, and he's shooting 67% from 2, 38% from 3, 82% from the line, and he's like leads the NBA in plus minus, like a plus 382 or something like that. Like, you know, they're the number 1 seed or 3 games above the Memphis Grizzlies right now. They're a half game out of the best record in the NBA. And they're not going to have another All-Star on the roster. So, you know, there's always that too. You know, no Jamal, no AG not. So, yeah, bro, I don't know, man. Like, I think at this point it's just what would have to happen, I think, around the NBA. There are several scenarios that are available out there. But I think right now, bro, I think he's pretty like even the MVP tracker, he's been leading it for like the last 8 weeks. The NBA.com, he's been number 1 the last 5 weeks, I believe. Embiid is the one that's been climbing, which we all knew we would. So, yeah, I don't know, bro. I don't know. You tell me. You're on the outside. You know, what are you saying about it?
Yeah, first of all, I don't even know why Embiid had to climb.
Right.
Like,
the Tatum narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess he missed some games at the beginning of the season, and that had him off of some lists. But I saw, like, Zion Williamson on some lists. I saw, like, some players that missed basically the same amount of games as Joel Embiid on the list. So, but yeah, to me, Joel Embiid is now, again, leading the NBA in scoring. And I just think you can go either way because it's 2 different styles of player and 2 different styles of play. Joel Embiid's more physically dominant. He's more dominant paint presence. And he carries more of a scoring load for his team than Nikola Jokić does. Nikola Jokić, to me, is pretty obviously more of a facilitator, more of a ball sharing, run the whole team kind of guy, kind of a pseudo point guard / center at the same time. I do think it's amazing, the skill set that he has at the size that he's at. But to me, it's offensively, I'll call it even because they're 2 different styles of offense. Defensively, to me, it's not relatively close at all. Joel Embiid is a much better defender than Nikola Jokić, so that's where I give Joel Embiid the MVP. 2 years ago, last year, and this year. In my mind, 3 years in a row, it's been Joel Embiid. But it is what it is. We'll see where the voting shakes out. I don't even really care that much anymore about the MVP because I think Jokić is going to win it again. Do you think so? Jokić, to me, is winning because of this new era of focus on advanced analytics more than back in the day, to me. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the hard part is, bro, is that each of the last 3 years, just from raw data, there's never been a player that averaged 26, 11, and 8. And then, you know, he shot 56% from the field, 57. And then the next year was 27, 14, and 8. Never been done. I think he shot like 58% from the field. And then now he's averaging 25, 11, and 10, and on 70% true shooting. So none of those things have ever been done. So I think just that alone, you know, just talking about the raw data, I think that's really ultimately what it's been. It's just, you know, last year they were the 6th seed, but then they won 48 games. Philadelphia won, they won 51 games. The Bucks won 51 games. I think they had a tiebreaker. I think they might have won 50, 52. I can't remember. But Giannis played less games than Embiid. Jokić had played 8 more games than Embiid. And then down the stretch, you know, Jokić was averaging like 37, 16, and 6 or whatever else it was. Embiid was going crazy too. But I think people were just they were just like obviously wowed by. And again, this is non-analytic stuff. Is that they were able to carry Will Barton, Monte Morris, that version of Aaron Gordon, and Facundo Campazzo and Austin Rivers to 6 seed. And so and they beat the Sixers. They beat the Bucks, destroyed the Bucks by 36. So they won all these key games down the stretch. And Jokić was obviously the only player that was an all-star caliber player. So I think what it comes down to, bro, is that I know you say they're equal offensively, but Jokić at this point is entering the GOAT offensive player conversation because we have never seen this level of playmaking and floor raising from a center before. And then on top of that, the only player you can put the numbers up against in terms of just like volume and efficiency would just be Steph Curry in that 2015-16 year. So even that year, Steph averaged 30, and he averaged 30 on 66% true shooting, but Jokić is averaging 25, 11, and 10 on 70% true shooting. That's never happened before. So a lot of this comes down to he's shooting 61%, 62% from mid-range. He's shooting over 78% at the rim, and again, 38% from three. And then the Nuggets, they're 14th in defense now, bro. This is actually the most impressive thing. They're 14th in defense. They started 28. They're the third-ranked defense in the NBA over the last 15 games. I think they are the eighth-ranked defense over the last 25 games. And then the last 10 games, they're the best defense, number 2 defense in the NBA. And that's with Jokić on the court. So they have just been turning into what you would think a leading team would be in the NBA. They're turning into a two-way team that is able to lock in when they need to. And then offensively, when Jokić is on the court, they're just the best in the NBA. So, I think it's been hard, bro, for 76ers fans. And I empathize with y'all. And one of the reasons is because I think that, like, in any other era, I think Embiid would have been straight away. Like, there would have been no question, because Embiid was averaging 33, 10, and 3 last year. Now he's averaging, almost 34, almost 10, and 4 on 64% true shooting, bro. Like, it's outrageous. And he's shooting 86% from the line.
Right.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And they're also the number 7 defense in the NBA right now. Like,
Yeah.
And him and Harden are the best offensive pairing ever in 76er history as well.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true, man. You'd have to go back to Dr. J and Maurice Cheeks and Moses Malone, 1980, 83 or whatever. Jokić is hovering on the greatest offensive player of all time, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think if you get about 3 more years from this, because people have to realize that Jokić has, by himself, been the most valuable offensive player in the league and in the highest rated offensive era ever. And so I think one of the things people get misconstrued is that one of the reasons it's very hard to get triple doubles as a center is because of the nature of the position. So if you get into a situation where a center is averaging 10 assists a game, and it's the angle at which he's able to make these passes. And you saw some of this last year in the transition games, like Jeff Green, like the outlet passes, the transition dribbles, the no-look passes, like just simple DHOs and sets. Plus the shooting, bro. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's the shooting plus the vision, plus the playmaking, plus the passing, plus the rim pressure, plus the transition game. Out of a center, you just never have seen that. And so I think, again, he's become also, and I would say this, like, Ben Taylor has had this conversation before. I think Steph's the best offensive player ever. I think by the end of their careers, I think it's going to be Steph, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Nikola Jokić, and then if you want to put, like, Shaq in there, I think those would be the best offensive players of all time.
All right, I like that you threw Magic Johnson in there because, I think Jokić being a center elevates that, like, oh my God, we've never seen this before narrative. To me, he's
LeBron
a 7.
LeBron too, by the way.
Yeah, to me, he's a 7-foot point guard, and he's a great 7-foot point guard that runs the game from middle free throw area and from the post too. But he's just a 7-foot passing NBA player. I don't think that's earth shattering. I just think that the whole, like, we constantly, oh my God, he's doing this, and he's a center. It's never been done before. I just think that's a label that we're putting on it that makes it sound like it's never been done before. But we've seen a 6'11" point guard in Magic Johnson. We've seen. I mean, he just plays like a point guard to me. I just don't think it's earth shattering. That's all I'm saying. I think him being a center elevates that narrative.
So the question I would ask you, bro, is, can you name a player that you would ever be able to say it's a tier 1 scorer, a tier 1 rebounder, and a tier 1 playmaker all at the same time over the course of NBA history? Because that would be the question I would ask them. So if you could think of a player that fits that archetype, is there anybody you could think about?
No, it's rare. I'm not saying it's not rare at all. I got him 1 and 2 every season in the MVP race. I just don't go as far as greatest offensive player of all time just because he's doing these things at the center position. Also, I think there's too much of a harp on the true shooting percentage number because to me, the greatest offensive players of all time carried teams with a scoring load, which in turn you are going to take more difficult shots and you're going to have lower efficiency ratings. But I don't think efficiency rating determines your greatness as a player. I'm sure Michael Jordan did not have a very high efficiency rating. I know Kobe Bryant didn't have a very high efficiency rating. Allen Iverson didn't have a very high efficiency rating. But these players in the fourth quarter were the player that had to have the ball in their hands, that had to take the last shot, that had to take the difficult shot. So their efficiency rating is not going to be high. Joel Embiid, the fourth quarter, we need you to do something with the ball. We need the ball to go in the hoop from your hands. So he's going to take more difficult shots, and his efficiency is not going to be as high. But it's because he's not as good of a passer as Nikola Jokić. Nikola Jokić doesn't necessarily have to take the most difficult shots on the floor because he has more of a point guard mindset. So I just think the shooting percentage and the efficiency rating is much too harped on, in my opinion.
Why do you think Jokić has been a better playoff scorer so far?
A better playoff scorer?
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking like career points per game in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean career points per game or even the last 3 years.
Why has Jokić been a better playoff scorer? Joel Embiid playing with Ben Simmons for a lot of years really affected his game, especially in the playoffs. When teams really started playing defense and bringing double, triple teams, and he's trying to get the ball out to a guy that won't shoot it, you can easily double team him. I mean, there's screenshots of Joel Embiid being double teamed by Ben Simmons' defender before Ben's even passing the ball to him, and he's still trying to pass the ball to him. I really do think the offense around Joel Embiid has to be specifically built. I think this is the best built offensive team around Joel Embiid of his career, which is sad that it took 8 years to do it the right way. He's needed a point guard his whole career, and he never really had one.
So I think the thing I would retort to you with, bro, is that last year they started Austin Rivers, Monte Morris, or Will Barton and Monte Morris with Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon, which is by far, it was the worst 5-man unit in basketball in the playoffs last year and the worst 4-man unit, period, in the playoffs last year. And they were the best offensive team versus the number one defense throughout the entirety of the playoffs in Golden State Warriors. And last year with that roster, Jokić, the last 3 games of that series, averaged 35, 15, and 6, and he shot 73% true shooting, which is unheard of. And he shot 31, 13, and 6 on 63% true shooting throughout the entire series. So that, I guess what I'm saying is the difference between Jokić and Embiid is that, to your point, you do need a point guard and need adequate spacing on the court with Embiid to make him more playoff viable. But the point is that when you get Jokić in the playoffs, the reason that he's able to be the level of score that he is because of his skill set and the fact that he translates mid-range, at the rim, and in three-point line. He translates all that to the playoff. That's why he's shooting roughly 40% from 3 in the playoff throughout his career and shooting like 85% or whatever it is at the line as well. So Jokić has just been able to, whether it was 25, 13, and 8, his first playoff run, whether it was like 24, 9, and 6 or whatever it was in the second playoff run. And then even in the year before, bro, like they played against the Portland Trailblazers, similarly to how y'all played against the Toronto Raptors. Jokić averaged 33, 11, and 5 on 50, 40, 90 in that series. No one has ever done that before. So I think this is what I mean. Like, it goes back to the fact that Jokić just has a skill set that is unheard of for an NBA player, period, regardless of position. And what makes him so viable is that there's no defensive scheme you can put in front of him that would slow him down. None. Double team, triple team, zone, ISO, front, nothing. Because he's a better off-ball player than Embiid is as well, better off-ball shooter than Embiid is, better pick-and-roll player than Embiid is, and he's a better shooter is from the rim to the mid-range 2-3. So, and again, on top of that, being obviously an all-time level passer. So that's what I mean. Like, I think I don't like talking about the two because I think Embiid is a great player in his own right. But I think when you explain the difference is that there is no answer for Jokic. If we're Embiid, we have seen his limitations come up in certain situations or in the playoffs or against certain defenses.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So there's been no answer for Jokic in the past 3 years.
In the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. In the playoffs.
Right.
Would that not equate to 3 championships?
No, because you got to remember, he also hadn't had a roster. So a part of this is if he didn't have James Harden or even Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris or any of them.
So what did the teams do in the playoffs to stop him? You just said he's unstoppable.
Yeah, so Jokic himself has been exceptional in the playoffs. The thing that he ran into the Suns with Facundo Campazzo and Austin Rivers starting in the backcourt. That's what I mean. Like, there was no chance. Those were backups that were getting rotational minutes. You don't even know who these people are. Shaq Harrison and what's the name? Marcus Howard. They were getting rotational minutes in the playoffs that year. And so that's what I mean. Like, last year, if you give him Jamal, Michael Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell Pope, and Bruce Brown, then the story's different. And I think that's why this is the first time they've ever been considered full-out contenders. Because they never had this.
The season that he had Jamal, when Jamal had those back-to-back 51-point games in the Western Conference
That was the
Finals?
first round versus the Utah Jazz. Yeah, and then the 40-piece versus.
Did he get hurt in the playoffs, Jamal Murray?
No, he got hurt in early April 2021.
What do you think stopped them that season?
Oh, they weren't good enough. Yeah, that LeBron and AD plus Caruso and KCP and Kuzma, they were the best team in the league that year. Jokic was 20. That was his age 23 season. He wasn't an MVP level player yet either. So yeah, that just wasn't. They weren't ready for that one. I always have them. Both at the top. And this season right now, maybe both at the top, leading maybe the 2 best teams in the NBA. Maybe the Nuggets in the West, maybe the Sixers in the East. I don't really know yet. I haven't seen a healthy matchup. I want to see a healthy matchup against the Boston Celtics to really, show me what the Sixers can do in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, I would probably pick the Denver Nuggets to come out of the West if they stay healthy. I've felt like that for a couple years. What's your assessment of the Denver Nuggets this season? Like, do you think they can win an NBA championship this season? Yeah, absolutely. I think that right now, we talk about this too. Bones Highland's on the trade block a little bit. I think they're looking to get like an Alex Caruso or a Jared Vanderbilt level defender to add to their roster. But they've been juggernauts, bro. I don't know if you saw what they did to the Celtics. They beat the Celtics by 12, fully healthy, in Denver. They beat the who was it? They played the Milwaukee Bucks without any of their starters, basically Aaron Gordon. They played against a few healthy teams. The Memphis Grizzlies, for instance, with no Porter and no Jamal Murray, they beat them by 14. They've just been cooking people. So I think the thing is, like, the Nuggets, this is the most confidence I've ever had in their roster. And then given, the fact that Jokic is right now, for me, the best player in the NBA, if you give him Jamal and you give him Porter and you give him KCP and Bruce Brown, hopefully you all will get a chance to see today. There's just a different, level that they've been able to reach so far. Now, again, a lot of that depends on health, though, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I would probably pick them to come out of the West if they're healthy. The Sixers, to me, are still a big question mark. I know they're second in the East. I think their major
in the last 24 games too.
Yeah. I think their major issue is it's going to be Doc Rivers again, man. His strategy and his lineup staggering is not good. And people that really watch it happen and watch some of the things that he forces and refuses to adjust, it's going to be bad against the best teams. The Sixers can beat most of the teams in the NBA, but I think that's a glaring issue that's going to hurt them against the best teams when they're in the second round of the playoffs again. Last year, what NBA coach would think that you should try to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo with Paul Millsap?
Yeah, I remember that.
Paul Millsap for 8 straight minutes, and he scored 17 points in 8 minutes. He's done it again this season a lot of times. His new thing now is his love for Montrezl Harrell, and I love Montrezl Harrell. I love his attitude. I love his mentality, but the dude cannot. You can guard him. You can score on Montrezl Harrell, bro. He can't. Seth Curry was doing layups over Montrezl Harrell in that Nets game, and when sometimes he gets away with it, but sometimes the other team really has an advantage when he runs that Montrezl Harrell thing into the ground and he refuses to adjust it. And that's, I think, the Sixers' biggest issue right now. I think the backup center minutes are gonna. It's the backup center minutes and Doc Rivers' decision making at the backup center position is the thing that I fear the most, probably, with the Sixers.
Well, I think the thing I'm not confused about, because I talked to shout out to Josh Reynolds about this on SB Nation as well. But you all have been dominant. This is the best offensive peak you all have ever hit right now. I mean, I think you all have like a 121 offensive rating like the last 10 or so games. Mm-hmm. Harden's averaging 22 and 11 assists, 61% true shooting, which is great.
Again, I'm having trouble. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm having trouble just assessing them because, it's hard to get a healthy matchup against a great NBA team. In about 27 minutes, we're probably going to get the best test for the Sixers that I've seen this season.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait, bro. I think Embiid's playing too. I don't know if I saw that on the timeline yet, but it looks like he might be playing. Yeah, man. Honestly, bro, I like the Sixers, man. I had them, the Celtics, and the Bucks coming out, the 3 best teams available. I'm not gonna hold you, bro. The way the Bucks have looked, I think like if y'all played a series versus them, depending on how Embiid would be playing, yeah, bro, I think that's a very winnable series for y'all this year. But like I said, Embiid then has to be able to translate who he is now to the playoffs, and that would just be the biggest question mark. But if y'all had that, then I think y'all can win that series outright.
Yeah, last year, I think, like I said, the Ben Simmons years were what they were. It always got exposed in the playoffs. I always knew it was going to get exposed in the playoffs. Then last year he gets Harden, but Harden was off of a hamstring rehab and didn't have a full off season. And he looked, by the time the playoffs came around, he looked totally burnt out. He didn't have elevation on his jump shot. He just wasn't very efficient in the biggest moments of the biggest games. I think he's healthy. And I think in the playoffs, that's been Joel Embiid's biggest kryptonite is, again, double and triple teams in the post and passing it out to a guy that, like, okay, they're throwing everything at Joel Embiid. We need somebody else to do something. He hasn't had that yet. It was supposed to be James last year. He didn't really have it because of his level of fitness at that point. I think Joel finally has that. He finally has a player that can do something with the ball in his hands when the other team's really throwing everything at him. So, like I said, again, in 20-some minutes, they're going to get a good test, and I'll really be able to assess what I think about the Sixers healthy competition-wise going towards the playoffs.
Bro, I'm not going to hold you, man. Yeah, bro, I'm more confident in this 76ers team than I've ever been in any team, outside the Jimmy Butler year. I thought that team was really good. Ben obviously was not great in the playoffs defensively or offensively. But here's the thing, man. I think that Tyrese Maxey's elevation as a player, Joel Embiid, a part of last year that you could kind of tell Embiid wasn't right, even in that early Toronto Raptors series, when he was getting cooked off the dribble by Thaddeus Young, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam. Yeah. And it was the wear and tear on his legs, on his body, and then everybody kind of crumbling around him. So I do think, though, bro, if they're able to get situated properly, and then I'm not gonna lie to you, the bottom of the West is weird because you got Golden State and the Suns, and then maybe the Lakers. So, like, there's going to be a lot of talent down there. But in the East, please, like, one of them sorry teams are going to make it. I don't know if it's going to be the Pacers or the Raptors or whatever it's going to be. But I think that'd be a great little warm-up for them. And then, again, then you get into the big dogs, and you're going to face one of the Nets. You're going to face one of the Bucks, one of the Celtics, or maybe the Heat. But I think the Heat are still a good team in the second round. So I think it's going to be a dogfight. But I think Embiid, Harden, Maxey, Tucker, Tobias, Milton. I know y'all don't love him. Shake Milton. I think Shake Milton's a decent 8th to 9th man. Not a 7th, not a 6th or 7th, but an 8th to 9th man, a good rotational player. Bro, I think y'all have plenty, man. And then again, Paul Reed can get some time. Hopefully, we'll see. I know he's a little small. Dr. Rivers doesn't like him, but Montrez is also okay for a backup center,
Montrez is terrible for a backup center defensively, but what do you? He's awful, man. Doc Rivers got fired in L.A. Part of the reason was his love for Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell was like a minus 37 in that series against the Nuggets. Zubac was like a plus 20 something, and he just ran it into the ground. And that's it. The same thing's happening with Montrezl Harrell and Paul Reed. Paul Reed's not a great player at all. He doesn't have a great skill set. He's just a hustle energy guy that can rebound. Per 36, he's 7th in the entire NBA in rebounding. His rebounding percentage is top 10 in the NBA when he gets time. And the Sixers get killed on the boards a lot, especially when Joel Embiid goes to the bench. I've seen Doc play George Niang at center. When Embiid was out, we watched him start PJ Tucker at center. There's crazy things that he does that blow my mind. And yeah, Paul Reed should get minutes in certain matchups in certain parts of a game, and it's just not happening because for whatever reason, Doc Rivers hates him. I don't know what it is.
Right. Hey, man. But I think the thing is, I feel like everybody's complaining about coaching for the most part right now. I think Doc Rivers has done a decent job. So do you all feel like the talent has worked in spite of Doc Rivers? This is why y'all are the number 2 seed right now?
Yeah, they have a lot of talent, and he won a championship with the Boston Celtics, and you could have coached that team to an NBA championship. I could have coached that team to an NBA championship. Look at that roster. Are you serious? You could have went out there with no coach. Hey, go ball.
Right.
And I've watched a lot of those old highlights of that team. There was a lot of offensive strategy. They used all of the pieces perfectly. They used Ray Allen perfectly. They used Paul Pierce perfectly. So I'm not saying there wasn't any coaching involved, but that was a hard team to beat with anybody, any NBA coach being back there. So I think with enough talent, Doc Rivers can win an NBA championship. But for me, it has to be enough talent to overcome his stubbornness in the things that he does in those intricate parts of a game where he decides to play PJ Tucker at center over a guy that can actually rebound and things like that. So you need enough talent to overcome Doc Rivers. I've felt like that for 2 years now. Yeah, that's what I feel like.
So, yeah, man, I guess even looking at today's game, what do you feel like are going to be the key components to the 76ers being able to secure a win today versus the Nuggets?
Stopping them guards, man. They can't. Seth Curry just dropped 32 off the bench against this team. They play bad pick and roll defense. Even Joel Embiid, he just plays this drop coverage on the. It's not the plays that these players run to get open shots are not complicated. They call for a ball screen, they go around the screen, they're wide open. That's exactly how Seth Curry dropped 32 the other night. Just ball screens. Kyrie Irving dropped 30. They got 62 from Kyrie Irving and Seth Curry. And that game should not have been close whatsoever. The Nets aren't good without Kevin Durant.
How much? What was the score of that game? 133 to something?
Yeah, it was like 133 to 120 something. The Sixers had 75 points at halftime. So they were. It was a shootout. Nobody was really playing any defense. But I think that's what I fear with the Sixers. That's one of the things that I fear too, outside of the backup center position, is their defense on perimeter players. They don't really flash around screens and hedge and do things like that to try to get the ball out of their hands. They just let them cook, man. 62 from Kyrie and Seth Curry. That's crazy to me. So yeah, if Jamal Murray gets hot, Denver's just going to be out here ball screen, wide open. So again, this is what I want to see. I want to see how they handle a team like the Denver Nuggets healthy. So I'm excited for it.
I am so excited to see how annoyed you get if they're hitting shots today with KCP and Bruce and Porter. Because if they're hitting their shots in the corner, especially like KT, I think Porter's shooting 51% from three in the corner. I think KTP is shooting almost like 55 on one of the corners. It's like 40-something the other corner. Bruce Brown in the right corner shooting 50, and then he's shooting a 39 in the other corner. And literally because their offense is so spaced out, I mean, Jokić is just like, And then Murray's a great passer too. So I think you're going to get Jeff Green and Vlatko Čančar and Zeke Naji today off the bench too. So you're going to get a lot of running. And Christian Brown is maybe going to play. We'll see. If Bruce doesn't play, he will play. And you're going to see a dog defensively. Like, I love Christian Brown. So we'll see. Bones, hopefully, I think might play today too. So yeah, man, I think it's going to be great. By the way, the Nuggets are starting their starting five, and this is the first time they started the starting five since. I don't even know, bro, because Porter had a family incident, so he wasn't there. So this is the first time in over a week, maybe since before the Minnesota game. So you're getting Murray, KCP, Porter, Gordon, and Jokic today.
Yeah, I also want to see Tyrese Maxey. We got 27 off the bench from him against the Nets, and with him coming off the bench, it's all about the coaching strategy. It's all about what lineups you put him in, who you put him on the floor with, and when you put him on the floor with those players. The end of the second quarter against the Nets, Maxey scored like 8 or 10 points at the end of the second quarter in a certain lineup without James Harden and Joel Embiid on the floor. And then end of the third, into the fourth, he didn't have the same production with. It's just interesting. He has production with certain lineups, and other lineups he kind of is more passive and stands in the corner. I sometimes I see like Tobias Harris running a 2-man game with Montrezl Harrell and Maxey standing in the corner, and I'm like, why is this entire offense not featuring Tyrese Maxey when Embiid and Harden are on the bench? So yeah, I think with Embiid and Harden on the bench and Maxey out there, he has to be the centerpiece of the offense. And if you can get 25 from Maxey off the bench, and you get your 30 from Embiid, your 25 and 10 from Harden, I think the Sixers stand a good chance in this game against one of the best teams in the NBA. So yeah, I'm excited for it too, man. Why do you think Bones Highland is on a trade block? What's up with that?
Man, he's one of the worst defenders in the league. Jokic has a positive net rating with everybody by a lot. But Bones is still very good, but defensively, it's the worst pairing of anybody in the major rotation minutes. So he just doesn't have it. He can't stay in front of people. He gambles a lot, and he's young. So I think that, again, the Nuggets are at this point are saying that, look, if we can get an Alex Caruso or Jared Vanderbilt to fortify our defense and give us another option, I think they're willing to do it because they believe their title window is this year, next year, the year after that. And they're not going to give Bones an extension maybe because Bones is at some point going to be worth $25 million a year.
Yeah.
Do they want to pay Jordan Poole to come off the bench with $500 million on their starting five already? I don't know if they want to do that. So if that's the case, then they might try to maximize the value while he has 2 years left on the deal. So I don't want to do it, but I can see the logic if they get a starter level player that also comes off the bench. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we get out of here, who would you say the Nuggets' biggest competition is in the West?
I mean, still the Warriors. I mean, you gotta beat them. You got to put the man out. And so, they beat the Warriors in Golden State earlier this year without Murray. Wiggins was there. They had a fully healthy roster there. But yeah, man. I mean, I think that's their. If they had their ideal stretch, it would be beating the Lakers in the first round, just dismantling the Clippers again in the second round, and then beating the Warriors in the conference finals, and then playing the Boston Celtics or the 76ers. That would be their true gauntlet, like their true prove-it finals run, you know. So, or actually Giannis too, Giannis in the Bucks, because I think that for a narrative, that'd be great too. But I think it's still Golden State. Who do y'all think y'all's best competition is?
Oh, it's easily the Boston Celtics to me. They have the most complete team. We played them healthy the first game of the season opener, and they got 70 from Tatum and Brown.
Yeah.
Again, perimeter players just going around ball screens, shooting wide open shots. Yeah. That's their biggest competition. Not just Tatum and Brown. Their defensive strategy on Joel Embiid. They've had with Al Horford and those guys. Man, they've had such a good strategy of slowing him down in the post. They bring double teams quick, and then they rotate and they retreat quick. You got to move the ball fast to get open shots against them. Yeah, the Boston Celtics are the biggest competition in the East, easily, for me.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And it's so funny because I remember I watched that Celtics game against the 76ers, and then they played against Jokic just January 1st. And Jokic had 30, 12, and 12 and had like a 95% true shooting that game. But that's because they are so different in their play style. Because the Celtics are able to do a lot of things versus Embiid that they tried to do versus Jokic. But again, it was a playmaking difference. But I think, I'm not going to hold you, bro. I am that confident in Embiid. I think he's been the best player of the East, arguably, this season. So if Embiid's healthy, bro, and you get what you need from Harden and Tobias and Maxey, I mean, I think he's a better player than Tatum. Now, playoffs, we'll have to see that work itself out. But he has the potential to be a better playoff performer in a series versus Jason Tatum.
Word, bro. Hey, man, thanks for coming through again. This is always fun. Do we get another? We get another couple Denver Nuggets Sixers matchups toward the end of the season. I think in March. There's one in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it again. We'll do it again in March, man. We'll do it again.
That sounds good, man. Appreciate it, bro.
Hey, Sixers Nuggets in about 13 minutes, man. I'll be watching it on Playback TV, playback.tv/runitbackphilly, and on YouTube. And man, I'm excited for this. But yeah, I got to go get ready for it, man. Thanks for coming through, man.
No problem, bro. I appreciate y'all, man. Shout out.
Later.